Brothers and sisters, the Dr. Don Radio Show, no judgment, just realness here on Raise the Praise 100, where we give you praise all day, every day. That was Kirk Franklin. Love theory. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, it is a theme. God wants us to show love. If we don't show love to each other, how does the world know? Who we are. If we can't even love each other, we need love in this world. But brothers and sisters, I am so excited to have this conversation. Um, and just let me tell you something. Of course, the topic's sometimes heavy, but you got to talk heavy to get to the healing. Amen. Brothers and sisters, you saw the flyer. So thank you for those who are listening online on Raise the Praise 100. Thank you for those who are listening through the Raise the Praise 100 app. And thank you for those who are watching us on StreamYard. Brothers and sisters, we are about to talk about domestic abuse, right? It is Mental Health Awareness Month. And this sister, we have to give her a proper introduction. Y'all know we don't bring anybody on the Dr. Don Radio Show raggedy, any kind of way. But Danielle D. Smith, she is an award-winning author, filmmaker, speaker, advocate. She is the founder of the Don't Be Quiet movement. I met her a few years ago at the Survivors with Voices conference, and this sister has not lost the fire, not only continuing her process of healing, but to help others heal. Let's welcome to the Dr. Don Radio Show, Danielle D. Smith. How are you, girl?
I am amazing. Super duper excited to be with you again. It's so full circle today.
Man, because it's been what? How long has it been, girl?
That was 2017.
Oh man, 2017.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Good evening, Thesia Jenkins. If you all want to ask a question to Danielle, and if you are watching on StreamYard, please put your comments in, put any feedback, positive vibes, whatever you want to say, and we'll definitely read your comments. Or if you want to call in, 346-355-0100. Danielle D. Smith, the D stands for what? Don't be quiet.
Hilarious. I've never heard that one, actually.
Don't be quiet, Smith. I just made you a name.
I like it.
And
I'm going to use that now.
Get that trademarked. But the truth is, Danielle, and we're going to talk about this, brothers and sisters, and we have real talk on this show. And I'm telling you, anytime I get people to share their testimony, man, Danielle, it's always a blessing. So thank you for trusting this space.
Oh, definitely.
No judgment, just realness, right?
That's right.
Because that's what we do. We can't do it any other way. Because right now, Danielle, there's somebody dealing with domestic abuse. Maybe they're seeing it happen in their own home and doing nothing about it. When they see their child being abused by a spouse. Or they have lived it and are putting up a front, still haven't gotten therapy. So we're going to talk about that. But let's talk about domestic abuse, right? Yeah. When did it start for you? Give us a little of your background for those who don't know.
Well, I am a survivor of child abuse and neglect by the hands of my mother and her boyfriend. And I saw evidence of domestic abuse in the home. So I never saw him hit her. I just saw the effects of it later. Seeing that, being able to see that on a regular basis, we feel like we are shielding our children because I never saw it, right? I never saw him hit her. So I feel like she felt like she was shielding me and helping me, but I still saw the effects of it. So I was still affected. So I was taken out of the home when I was 5. I was placed in a home with my father because I had a relationship with him, meaning I saw him every other week. Okay. I did not have a relationship, daddy-daughter relationship or anything with him. I saw him every other week. And so I began to live with him. And when I lived with him, I dealt with verbal and emotional abuse. And then
let's go back. Hold on, let's go back because we skipped. So first of all, you're in an abusive household with your mother and her boyfriend.
And her boyfriend.
And how old were you? So how did this happen from birth to 5, birth to 4, since the day you were born? How long? And then they put you with your father, right?
No, so I lived with my father until I lived with my mother, I'm sorry, until I was 5. The
Mm,
abuse happened with my mom from 3 to 5. 3 and 4
okay.
mainly, but really until I left, which was when I turned 5. And so I'm seeing effects of, I'm being abused physically. I'm also being abused emotionally and verbally
Mm,
um, with my mother. And so
okay.
I was taken out of the home because there were signs of abuse. They could see the marks on my body. They were submitted into children's services, and I was taken out of the home.
Okay.
And so I dealt with that for 3 and 4 years old. And yes, I do remember it, a lot of it.
Because that's what I was just about to say. People are like, well, get over it. It happened when you were a kid.
No,
For those who want
those
to
are the,
judge, we're going to talk about that too. But go ahead.
yeah.
I just had to interrupt there. Go ahead.
No, I'm glad you did, because those are pivotal times in our lives,
Mm,
of learning. That's when we learn who our mother is. It's a crazy thing that I didn't really grow up with my mom, but I have a lot of similarities with my mom, tons of
mm.
them. Just
How
because she's
so?
my mom, she, I have mannerisms. I have her personality when it comes to, I have very dry humor.
Okay. Really?
And so I have that big time. And then I have things like I had to deal with not pleasing people. My mother is like
Mm.
that.
You
And
were a people pleaser?
big time. And I
Okay.
know that being around, always having a boyfriend, always having a male, counterpart near me, or, dating, that came from my mom. My mom definitely was like that. I always saw men, she was always with somebody. Even after I went to live with my father, when I finally got a relationship with her again, I would see her every other weekend, and there was always a man.
Hmm.
And so, although I'm not living with her, I'm still have characteristics like her.
Yeah.
She's still my mom, at the end of
Yeah.
the day. And so, yeah, feeling like I always had to be around a man, or, have one with me, and all this kind of stuff, not understanding that I could be by myself, and how to love on myself. I've
Yeah.
learned that. And so, that was like my mother. And it's so funny. I use this analogy that, growing up without her for a while, I always said I didn't want to be like her. I was so angry with her, for giving me up, not fighting for me. That's how I felt, that I was so angry with her. And I was like, I never want to be like her. Never want to be like her. Never, never, never. And I end up being just like her, because I was running so hard trying not to be like her, that I wasn't looking forward. I was looking back,
Mm.
monitoring my progression. And so when you looking back, you can't run straight.
Hello.
And so I ended up running in full circle to being like her in many ways. And so I had to break that. I mean, the good part about it is I was in a good space by that time, that I knew, I'm starting to recognize things, and I could talk to my therapist in order to get through it.
Now let's go
So,
back. Let's go
yes,
back.
definitely. Definitely.
So you get taken, you're removed from your mother's home at what age?
At 4.
At 4. Thesia
Hmm.
Jenkins, she says, yes, absolutely true. So you're taken out of daddy's house, mama's house at 4.
Hmm.
So now you're living at 4 years old with a daddy who you saw every other week. So there was really
Correct.
no relationship.
No relationship. And he just got married. And
To the
so
How were you treated in that house?
I was treated as the child that was taken in. It was,
Mm.
look at us, we saved this kid.
So
And
you had
it
other
was,
brothers and sisters.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So here you are coming into a home, they were already established. And then
yes.
here you come as the ex at 4 years old.
Hmm.
Treat You felt that way. Okay.
Yes.
But let's go back to the abuse that you endured
Hmm.
at the hands of your mother and her boyfriend. Was it physical, emotional, sexual? What type of abuse are we talking about here?
It was physical, emotional, and verbal.
Okay.
Um, and as I stated, it was also neglect. as
Okay.
well. And so things were done as like I didn't get a meal every day.
Wow.
And not because we didn't have food, because we definitely had food.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend was a chef, so he was
Wow.
always cooking.
Wow.
And
But not cooking for the child. Yeah.
but not cooking for me. Yeah. And
Mm.
so yeah, it was many nights when it was just Tuesday outside and I didn't get a meal. There was never a reason why wouldn't you feed a child, when you have food
Yeah.
there. And so that was definitely one of my punishments. I was punished
That
a
was a
lot.
punishment. So
That
you
was a
don't get to
punishment.
eat is a punishment. Now,
Yeah.
and thank you for the comment. Somebody says counseling therapy is so important.
So important.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that. But
Yeah.
what kind of beatings are we talking? Are we talking about a whooping, or what kind of beatings? What kind of punishment are we talking about physical besides not
So
being able to eat?
So a lot of times it was not him directly. And so hear me out on
Mm,
this, because a lot of
okay.
people don't understand that abuse is not always just the belt, the switches. I definitely got the
Yeah.
switches. But abuse also is not being fed. Okay. That's abuse and
Yes,
neglect.
yes.
And so also, being told I was nothing. One
Mm.
night I had to take the dog out and walk
At
the
four
dog
years old,
at
at three
4
years
years
old.
old. Yes, and it was freezing cold outside by myself in what was considered the hood, and
Mm,
all by myself with just the dog, even though that was my buddy, okay?
yeah. Wow.
But it was freezing cold, and I was told I couldn't come inside until he went to the bathroom. And this particular night, he was chilling. And I came back in the house, and my fingers were almost blue. Y'all see, I'm fair skinned,
Mm,
so my fingers were almost blue. And it was because I was told I couldn't come back in until he used the bathroom.
mm,
But then I was told how stupid I was because I didn't come back in until he, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
I didn't come in sooner when I was so cold, you know what I mean? But I was doing what he told me to do, which was to not come in until he used the bathroom. But
Yeah.
then I was called stupid. I was every name under the book. And my mom had to call, actually had to call the squad for them to take care of my hands because they were blue. And
Yeah.
so that's a form of abuse. Uh, then also, I had to walk to my babysitter's house. Yes, at 4 years old, I walked to my own babysitter's house, and that was
Mm.
over 9 miles away from my home. My mother
Oh my
taught me
goodness.
the route, how to get to my babysitter's house. And I would have to lie when I got to my babysitter house. She'd be like, "Where your mom?" "Oh, she had to go," and she just dropped me off.
Yeah.
And so she would pick me up, but going in the morning, first thing in the morning, I'd get myself ready for school. Sometimes she would get me, I'm sorry, for the babysitter. Sometimes she would get my breakfast and sometimes she wouldn't. And, I went on about my way, like I said, up to almost 9 miles away from our home in the hood, yet again, by myself. That is a form of
Mm.
abuse.
Yeah. And I'm glad you say that because, here I am asking about a belt and all of that because some of us don't think it's abuse if it's not, physical or
Right.
sexual.
Right.
But your story is I wasn't fed. How many stories have we seen, Danielle, when you see these children um, neglected?
Right.
Um, and they adopt these kids. That's what
Yeah.
gets me. Foster parents, and you
Right.
starving the children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was your mother, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that she allowed this? Was she dealing with mental illness? What? Or she was a broken woman? What
You,
was hers? What were her strongholds?
I found that out later what my mom's strongholds were. For years, like I said, I was so angry with her. All I knew is she
Yeah.
gave me up. You
Yeah.
didn't want me. I'm an
She
unwanted
didn't try to
child.
fight for you in court.
And so she did not.
Okay.
She did not. She was ordered to because she was charged, but her boyfriend was not charged. And I won't say
Mm.
why. That is one story that I don't go into. I do not say why he was not charged.
Well, you
But
know what? I was just about to ask why not, but we respect that. So yeah, go ahead.
And so my mother was charged with neglect, and
Okay.
she had to do counseling classes, had to attend parenting classes, and later my mom was an alcoholic and was a drug addict, and so those were her things. She also came from a broken home, and these are things that I found out once I became older.
Right.
She has her own story of
Yeah.
surviving
Yeah.
abuse. And so, when I went on my journey of healing, on my journey of something just ain't right, I'm jacked up. That was
Yeah.
how my journey started, was I need to get myself
Yeah.
together. Something just
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
right. Something is off balance. And also another reason for my journey was because I then decided to have a child. I didn't want children for years because I was petrified. Do you hear me? Petrified
Yeah.
that I would abuse my children, because statistics say that if you were abused, then you
Wow.
would abuse. And I
Yeah.
knew that statistic as a young child going through therapy myself, because I was mandated
Wow.
to go to therapy. And so I had always heard this, and I was petrified. Like,
Oh
the
wow.
things that I would do to not get pregnant, y'all, except for abstinence. Let's just say it. I'm sorry. Okay. I was a child. I mean, and so
Yeah.
I did it. And so I had always said I didn't want children. And so when I finally opened up my heart and I was like, I am not my mother,
Yes.
I
Yes.
decided to have a child, you know, it was so much I had
Now
to
wait
go
a minute.
through.
Let's go back. So you decided
Mhm.
to have a child,
Yes,
or okay.
I
So
decided.
why?
Yep.
Why did you need a child at that time?
At the time, well, I was with
Were you
someone,
at a
we were
place where you
getting
needed
married,
love?
and
You wanted,
oh
I
yes,
mean,
oh yes,
okay.
I was in
Okay.
love, we were getting married and all
Okay.
this, and he knew a lot of my story, had been there with me through a lot of
Mm,
things, with me and my mom, we always
yeah.
arguing and going through, and he had been there through a lot of that. And so he's like, would encourage me that I'm not her, and I'm a different person. And I was like, oh my God, I can love, someone
Yeah.
else other than myself and you. And it was like, okay, I think I'm ready to have a kid. And
Mm,
and I did. And
yeah.
so I honestly feel like I named her Deja, and
Okay.
that means refreshing, repeat, to be able
Yeah.
to do it again. And for me, that's what she was. And it was just
Mm,
like, oh, I could be somebody different, meaning I could have this different life than I can give a different life than what I have been given. I always say that she's the pure version of me.
wow.
She hasn't gone through the things that I've gone through, and I've shielded and protected her. And so that was amazing to me, to be able to provide that. And not that I'm God or anything, it's just that I
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
provide that. And it was just like, wow, I can have a different story. And so it made me look into my past, my family's past, when I started seeing that part of my mom's problem was that she didn't have a relationship with her mother.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then I saw how we weren't having a relationship, and I was like, okay, the cycle stops here. My
Amen.
grandmother and her mother didn't have a relationship. I'm like, oh, okay, so all the women in the family just got issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, not so with me and my daughter. And I was adamant about changing that. And so that made me change me. That made me change the dynamics of my family history.
Mm,
And it was like, okay, I demand for our future to be better. I demand for me to have a relationship with my grandchildren and my great grandchildren and with my daughter. I demand that. And it was just like, I'm going to do better. That's it.
now, so oh my goodness, it's so many questions. And it's no judgment, just realness, right?
That's it. That's it.
So what were, because I want people to know some of the signs they need to be looking for. So here you are living in your father's house. You lived there for how many years? Till you were 18?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
And,
but
and
you
and
no,
I
go
actually
ahead.
want to speak on why, because
Okay.
I already mentioned, and it wasn't great. I went from one home where it was physical abuse and mental neglect and emotional, to then to go to a home that was emotional and verbal abuse, mostly emotional. But guess what? It was better than where I was.
So your
And that was
father was
all I knew.
still emotionally and verbally abusive. So you
Yes.
still, it was just less abuse, but
Yep.
still abuse, really.
I had a
Still
meal every
abuse.
day. Yeah, and so it was better. It was better where I
Mm.
came from. I was able to eat when I wanted to.
Oh my goodness.
I had clothes, new clothes, and I always knew where I was going to sleep because my mother would send me off to my aunts and my grandmother and everywhere else, but with her a lot of times. And so every day I had the same home. I, like I said, I had clothes, I had somebody to do my hair. I mean, that was security for me.
But
And
still
it was
abuse.
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
until I graduated. And
Wow.
and it was just better. And so I
Mm.
still don't have a relationship with my father, but it was better than where I came from.
Well, the reality, and the thing is, this is absolute honesty here, right?
Yeah.
And that's very sad. And many, Danielle, could be in that situation. Many parents, a mother maybe, or a father, because there are women who abuse, stepmothers. And I don't even like stepmother, but sometimes they are a stepmother and not a bonus
Right.
mother.
Right. Right.
And there, the woman is abusive to the
Right.
kids, so
Yep.
it can happen. But what is a teen, a young adult, did you deal with, because of your upbringing, but because of what did you deal with? What were the
Ooh.
challenges?
Low self-esteem was huge.
Mm.
I was 23 before I accepted that I was cute,
Oh wow.
beautiful. What? Oh, okay. My father never told me,
Wow.
and it was, and it's so crazy because so many people know my parents, and it's just whatever. It is what it is. I've told my story for years now, since 2017, and it is what it is, okay?
Yeah.
And so I just I wasn't low self-esteem was the biggest for me. And this is the aha moment I had. Okay.
Okay.
So I was 22. I had my daughter when I was 23, almost 23. And so I looked at my mom one day, and I mean, like, this is so serious.
Yeah.
I was like, "You're pretty."
That's what you told her.
Yeah. And she was like, "Thank you." Like,
Mm.
okay, that's so random, because it literally was random. It
Yeah.
literally, we were sitting together and I just said, "You're pretty."
She never
And
heard that from mama.
right. And so,
Yeah.
but no, here's the kicker. I said it to her because I didn't know she was pretty.
Oh
And let me
wow.
tell you why. So one of my main verbal abuse, and we do this, parents, stop.
Say
Okay.
it.
And I'm telling you right now what it's doing. I had always heard from my father
Mm.
that my mom was this horrible person. My mom had left him, and she was in the streets, and some of that is true.
Yeah.
That is what happened. My parents, I've never known my parents to be together. My
Yeah.
parents were separated when I was 9 months old. So I've never said, "Oh, I want my parents to be together." I never had that.
Yeah.
But my dad used to tell me how my mom was this horrible person. She was in the streets. She,
Mm.
didn't take care of you. She was in the streets all the time. And you look just like your mom. Now, if I
Oh
only hear
wow.
the negative that you say about my mother, if I look just like her, that must be a negative too.
Wow.
Like, because everything that you're saying about her is negative. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I look just like my mom. That's horrible. And so when I was 22, like I
Mm.
said, I was pregnant with my daughter, as a matter of fact. And I said, "You're pretty, mom." And she was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "No, like, for real, like, you're legit pretty."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Thank you." And I was just like, "Oh my God." And it was so freeing to me,
Mm.
because then at that moment, as soon as I realized she was pretty, I realized I was pretty,
Oh wow.
because I was just like my mother.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that for years, I'm like, "Wait a minute.
Yeah.
If she's pretty, I'm pretty."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I just had this moment. I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm pretty too."
What, at
And
23 years
at
old?
23 years old.
Somebody just said, "Wow." Yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't real so when we really look at the effects of what we are saying, I never badmouth my daughter's father, was not in the picture for
Yeah.
her. I never badmouthed him because I knew the effects of it.
Lord,
And
Lord.
I wouldn't, and I still to this day, I won't. I will not badmouth him or anyone else. You know what I'm saying? Like the parents, like there's just places you just cannot go. Your words, because your words stick.
Oh,
And so
yes.
that stuck with me for years.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And so when I had
Mm.
that moment, it was very freeing for me. And I sat in it for a while.
Wow.
And not where
Tequila,
I was,
let me read some of these
yeah,
comments. I
yeah.
have to read the support you're getting. Tequila, sister, she says, wow. Sister Val McCrae says, that's beautiful. My God.
Wow.
I mean, come on. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
It was just very freeing for me. It was a moment
Yeah.
that I had that, helped me to do so much and helped me to propel so much
Yeah.
in my life. And I never would have thought it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
you just once I had that moment, like I said, I was pregnant with my daughter. So then
Yeah.
after I had my daughter was when I started my journey of healing. And so
Mm.
for me, it was like, yeah, you definitely have to tackle that. That was definitely something I talked to my therapist about was,
So when did
you
you
know,
start therapy? When did you start the healing process? You
so
know.
I went through therapy as a child because it was
Oh,
mandated by the courts. And
gotcha.
so that is actually where I learned,
Wow.
well, if you've been abused, you're going to abuse, a child. And that was when I
Wow.
got scared. Like, I'm not having kids.
Yeah.
But it was still good for me because I had a place to talk. But then I stopped the therapy. I recall I was in middle school. The therapy stopped because my stepmom said, well, all you do is talk about your mom, and I'm not going to pay for that. And I was like,
Mm.
is that who I should be talking about? Like,
You know
she
what?
said
I
that.
really want to just go there about them right now. But if you have forgiven them, then who am I? Right?
Right, right.
My God. I mean, come on. So I'm not going to pay for this because all you do. Well, what you think the problem is, lady?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're not going to, because all she does is talk. I could stop right there.
Yeah.
But
And so
I'm going to leave her to the Lord. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because at that time, of course, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was in the sixth grade. I was in the seventh grade, seventh
What
grade.
did that do to you as a child? Let's talk about this. What it does, and I can bring on a therapist and counselor to weigh in on
Mhm.
this. But what did that do to your psyche when your stepmother, because she wasn't a bonus mother? Am I correct in that?
So for me, she was my mom.
Okay, well, let me say
I
mom. I don't want to, if that's what
right.
she was, let me say
Yep.
that. So, what did that do
Yep.
to you when she says, I'm not paying for this anymore because all you do is talk about, what did that do to you as a young child?
So for me, it was, well, let me stop talking about my mom, no matter where
Wow.
I was. And so
Wow.
there was always this fight that I felt between them.
Ah,
And I always talk about that as well as like, when you are fighting in front of your children, that arguing that's back and forth, between the parents and stuff. And I'm like, yo, we feel that big time. And I
wow.
remember saying one thing, they wanted me to bait against them. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Be on my side. And that was a hard thing for me. I want
yeah.
to please my mom. When I finally, my mom finally started coming to see me. What after I lived with my dad, I didn't see my mom for a year. And so when I finally started seeing her, that those moments when I would see her for the weekend, I wanted her to like me. I wanted us to have fun, and I wanted her to, I didn't so much want her to take me back at this
Yeah.
time because I was confused,
Yeah.
because I still like getting a meal every day. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
But I was still put between the two when it was, say something evil about her,
Yeah.
or what's going on over there now, and all this stuff. And it was a lot. I didn't feel like family with my dad and my stepmom. I didn't. and she has a huge family, but I never felt like family. I
Mm.
always felt like an outsider, and
Wow.
that I've dealt with that for a long time. Another
Yeah.
thing is that I dealt with recently is I talk fast when I'm
Yeah.
just hear me out. I talk fast when I'm around people,
Mm.
and I tend to interrupt people as well because I want to hurry up and get my words out, and I may not say a complete sentence all the time. And I'm working so that I'm way better than I was. But hear me out why? Because my parents didn't want me around them. And so I had to
Mm.
hurry up and get out what I had to say. And it
Yeah.
was like they didn't spend time with me, it was never one-on-one time or anything. And so I had to hurry up and say what I had to say because, they were on the phone, they were watching TV. And so I'm interrupting their time or whatever they want to do. And
Yeah.
so I tend to interrupt people when they're talking because I'm trying to hurry up and get out what I can say so I can get out your face, so I can get out of
Yeah.
your space. And so
Mm.
now I'm realizing, dang, people want to talk to me. People want to
Yeah.
have a conversation. Let me have a conversation with them.
But
And
it's
so
interesting
hard.
how we make judgments, right? Because if
Mhm.
somebody doesn't know you, they're like, "Oh, she talks fast," and "Oh, she's interrupting me."
Yes.
We
Yes.
don't really, and then we'll make judgments, and well, I'm not going to
Mhm.
deal with her anymore. You don't know the testimony and why.
Yeah.
What is the reasoning? So I think this is important to let us have an understanding.
And
Um,
so for
yeah,
when I realized it,
yeah,
one day, I honestly don't even recall when this moment hit me about the cutting people off. But now, when I started realizing it, I would apologize to people like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I mean,
yeah,
so it's taken time for
yes,
me to talk to people and let them talk and have a conversation with me. That
yeah,
simple thing that is so simple to others wasn't so simple for me.
yeah,
And even in what I do, helping other people, I'm mandated to help people. I know my purpose. And so
yeah,
even with helping other people, they come to me for help, guidance, resources, and I'm still trying to push them away. And I'm like, they want to have a conversation with you, Danielle.
yeah,
And so that is all, it's mental though. You know what I mean? And so I have
yeah,
to stop and I have to bite my tongue and listen to people. Not that I would never listen. That wasn't the problem.
yeah,
It was just me being quick to respond because I think that you want to get away from me.
yeah, yeah.
And so
No, go ahead.
that's a lot for me. That I think that was one of the biggest things that I had to get over
Mm,
was
wow,
people actually wanting to spend time with me. That I'm
wow,
actually a cool chick. Like I really am cool.
yeah,
And realizing it for myself and realizing that other people know that and that
yeah.
people want to be around me.
Amen. Let me read this comment. And Danielle, I want to hear your response to this.
Yes.
Thesia says, as a society, we see many times we do not prepare our children to be parents. So we do the best with what we know. She says, conversations like this help to create opportunities to break cycles and help people get skills they need. What do you say to that?
Wow. Listen, high five and
High
salute
five,
all
cyber
that to that.
fives, right?
Yes. And that's so true. A friend of mine is going through this training now where it's talking about what is it? Oh, shoot, parenting our inner child. So it's like,
Mm,
how many times have you had to talk to your inner child? And that's something I've definitely had to do is talk to my inner child. I parented my daughter the way I always wanted to be parented.
okay.
Okay. So I thought that the Huxtables were my family. Okay. Now
Hmm.
you could not tell me that I was not their child.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were doctors and lawyers. Okay.
Yeah.
Like flat out, they were my parents. And the things that I saw in that show is what I wanted to do with my daughter.
Yeah.
And so for me now, though, she's 19 years old
Yeah.
and realizing that realizing mistakes that I've made in doing that.
Mm.
So, I was more lighthearted in areas where I should have been more stern. I'm
Ah.
learning my mistakes that I made because I didn't want to, I mean, I still thought that I was going to abuse her.
Yeah.
And, that frightened me anytime to try to, whoop her or not whoop her. And that was so confusing to me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was an adult, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was very confusing for me. And then, what to take away from her, what not to take, it was trial and error for me.
Yeah.
As I know all parents are, right?
Yeah.
We don't really truly have a manual. And I get that.
Yeah.
But a lot of my parenting was, well, I didn't get this, so I want to give it to her. And there was good and bad when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Good and bad. And not until she was 13 did I let her know a lot of the things that I had gone through. And
Wow.
so I think that if I had done more counseling earlier in her years, because then I stopped counseling to be a mom. And now when I think back on that, I'm like, that was backwards. That was when I really needed the counselor, but that was what I did.
Yeah.
And I wish that I would have gone to counseling with her and been able to have that bond. I definitely suggest that for anybody, to go to counseling with your child when you're getting your healing. Like, get the healing with your child.
Amen.
But I always thought, well, she ain't going through nothing I went through, so what does she need to go to counseling for? But later, when she got older, I'm like, dang, I really wish I would have done that. So that's definitely a suggestion that I give to anybody that's dealt with trauma as a child and you have children. Go to counseling with your children.
That right there is that's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. And we need more of that real talk. Therapy and counseling. She doesn't have the life I used to have, and we buy her nice things and everything's okay. But
Yep.
you said it. And what are some triggers for you though? What are some triggers for you? Because you said, I was doing my research, of course, like a good radio host, and I read one of the things that when you hear "shut up," even as an adult, that triggers those memories. Still, even today.
I'm a lot better with it now.
Okay.
I know that when you deal with your triggers, first, when you know that it's a trigger.
Yes, you have to know. Yeah.
Understanding the verbiage behind it. So understanding it's a trigger, understanding what trigger means. When you understand the words behind these things, understanding what trauma is, when you understanding what abuse is. When I first started Don't Be Quiet, I had to know, I thought there was only physical abuse. I had no clue that there was emotional and physical and financial.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Spiritual abuse. Yeah.
Spiritual, yes.
Yeah.
I had no clue of these other types. And so once I learned what they were, it helped me with my healing. And so trigger, let's go back to that. For me, hearing "shut up" now is like it's a word. Those are words now. I literally, I don't care who was being told. I was like, I'm joking, like, when they talking to me, I know they gotta be.
Yeah.
I felt the effects of it for a long time. I never told my daughter to shut up. It was be quiet. It was, you're not saying the right thing or whatever. I'm saying? We would talk it out. That's another thing I did with my daughter is I allowed her to express her feelings, in ways that I never was allowed to.
Yeah.
And that's good and bad. Let's just
whether you want to, you've given her a voice, good and bad. Yeah.
Good and bad. Good and bad, y'all.
How is that? How is it? And is it been a negative though?
To be honest, because now I can say I think that my daughter was still a child, right?
Yeah.
Children are going to push you regardless.
Oh yeah.
And so she got her way definitely with me more than she would have gotten with anyone else.
Yeah.
Because of my growing up, because I wanted to give her what she wanted. Now I'm not saying that she just got everything, but she got a lot. And she was able to express her feelings a lot, and
Gotcha.
whether it hurt me or not. And I think the times when it hurt me and she knew that it would hurt my feelings, she used that. And now
I
I love my
gotcha.
daughter. I love my daughter, and I'm definitely not putting her on blast or anything like that, because I love my
Yes,
daughter with
yes.
everything and everything in me. But our children do that. And it's known and unknown. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to do what they can do. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, even if you tell a child that they can't, if you allow a child to steal at the store 10 times, and then all of a sudden you turn around and tell them not to steal, it's going to
Yeah.
take a minute for them to stop, because you allowed
Oh
it for
yeah.
10 times.
Oh
And
yes.
so now that I'm older and I'm really, really, really getting this knowledge of abuse, and I'm just like, by any means necessary, I'm protecting my peace, and I'm
Yes.
protecting my mind. By any means necessary, who,
Yeah.
regardless of who does it, I'm teaching my daughter now how we should be, how we
Mm.
should be. And
Yes.
it's taking some time right now, because I'm undoing the things that I did wrong.
Yeah.
And I can admit that.
Mm.
I can
Let
admit
me
that.
let me read some of these comments. Thesia says, "Great advice on the parents and therapy with your kids." Val McCrae says, "I would always firmly say to my daughter, 'That's enough,'" and she put that in caps. And then
I
she
like
says, "Our
that.
children study us and learn how to manipulate."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it right there. Whoever said that one, yo, that's it right
sister Lady
there.
Val. Yeah,
Yes, that's it right there. And like I said, knowing and unknowing, because they are children, right?
yeah,
It's learned behavior. And so, unfortunately, fortunately, that kind of thing.
yeah.
But yeah, it is learned behavior. And now I'm teaching, I'm learning how to love me, you know what I'm saying? And I'm teaching others how to love me as
Amen.
well.
You're teaching people how to treat you.
Yes.
You're no longer tolerating certain behaviors, even if it's family.
Even if it's family.
Healthy boundaries. Healthy
Mhm.
boundaries. Now, if I ask you, because this is what I love to ask survivors, and I just love to hear the answer. Are you healed, or are you still in the healing process? Will you continue to
Oh
be in the
wow.
healing process?
I am
For you, what is it?
I am healing.
Okay.
A lot of things I've healed from, but
Yeah.
I'm still healing. I still have things where I'm like, whoa, that's why I do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was recently with the whole, like all of this. Well, I really went into my journey at 2017 in 2017.
Yeah.
When I had my daughter, I started the journey of healing, because I didn't want to be my mom. I
Yeah.
wanted to be an amazing mother. Like,
Yeah.
everything in me was like, I don't care about nothing. I just want to be an amazing mom. I mean,
Amen.
I was PTO, I was PTA, I was all the initials.
Yeah.
I was at everything. All the teachers knew me. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was heavily in her life, involved with everything. Whatever she wanted to do, we gonna do it. I don't care if you
Yeah.
want to do 20 million things. I don't care. And so it was just me being a mom, and I wanted to be great at it,
Yeah.
to the point where I didn't think about the healing journey any longer,
Yeah.
until this book came out of me. And it was
Mm.
like, oh, okay, so you about to relive some things, hunty. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. But my saving grace with that is that I had an amazing, amazing mentor,
Okay.
who was also my editor, but she was my mentor first. And she still is my mentor and friend now. And she told me, she said, take your time with this, because you are going to relive every moment that you put in this book. You're going to relive it.
Yeah.
And she was like, take your time with it and feel it. Now, that was different for me, because growing up, I wasn't allowed to feel. We
Yeah.
weren't allowed to be happy. We weren't allowed to be sad. Like, we were not allowed to show these emotions.
Yeah.
And so for me, all of a sudden, it was like, emotions. Why am I crying? Like, people cry. And that was hard for me, because, well, actually, my daughter kind of started me with that. Let
Yeah.
me back up and say that, because my daughter is a very emotional person.
Okay.
And because I was not allowed to have emotions, when my daughter started doing, I was like, what are you crying for? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And so, because I wanted to love her so badly, right? and I wanted to be such an amazing mom. I was just like, but is that wrong? Why is she crying? Like, aren't kids supposed to cry? So I was confused. And so that started the journey of, I was so confused on how to allow her to be her and break me and heal me. Like, it was so many emotions going on.
Yeah. But don't you think, crazy. No, go ahead.
Well, I just was gonna say, like, it was so much. And so when I started to realize, like, well, wait a minute, she's a kid. She's supposed to cry sometimes, ain't she?
Yeah.
And so when I started tapping into that, though, I remember I had a therapist friend. Now, remember, I stopped going to therapy.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that became my therapist. That a friend of mine was a therapist, and she would say stuff to me, you know, just a general conversation.
Okay.
Right. But she was like, no, feel it. And when I started to just one day just sit, and I was writing my story, and I started reliving these things, and all of a sudden these tears started coming, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I started to feel, and I was intentional about it. I was like, I want to feel. Okay, feel this, Danielle. Okay, feel this. Okay. I had to talk to myself. Feel this, Danielle.
Now, what do you mean by feel this? What do you mean by feel this?
So when tears came, I would allow them to come.
Okay.
I was quick to be like, oh, I ain't got time to do that. I ain't got time to cry. My brother was killed. One of my brothers was killed in 2003.
Okay.
And I didn't grieve. I didn't grieve for a couple of years. I was like, oh, I don't have time for that. I'm raising a kid now. My daughter wasn't even one at the time. I'm like, I ain't got time for that. I'm a single parent. I got to go on. I got to get these bills paid. And I don't have time to cry. Who cries? We don't cry, you know? And so now it was feel it. And so when tears started to come, I was like, I'm going to let it come, and I'm going to see what happens. Like, it was really a journey for me. It was like, so when the tears started coming, I was like, okay, just let it go. Just let it flow. And I know this sounds so weird to people, but if you've never cried before, when you allow it, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? You know? And it was like, okay, I can be happy. I can be sad. I could be angry. You know, like, God gave us these feelings. Come on now. And I'm not allowed to use them. And so now I smile when I want to. I'm happy when I want to. I cry when I want to.
Yeah.
And it's so freeing.
But you know why and I like how because I asked you, are you continuing to heal? Because as you speak, right?
Yes.
You thought everything was okay, but then your daughter's born and you see things there. In your parenting, then you write the book, and then things are coming. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just people. You go to therapy for 2 years and you're good. No, things are going to continue to come up.
They are.
So that's why it is important. What I'm saying is things are exposed. You thought you were good, but when you see that, oh my gosh, why? What is this going on? It's something that hasn't been dealt with. So that's why it's important to stay in the therapy and the counseling. Let me read some of these comments you're getting. So I want to hear your thoughts on these, Danielle. Tequila, Kowser, sister, if I'm mispronouncing your name, charge it to my head.
That's good.
Oh, it is it Kowser?
That's Deanna's sister.
Oh, Deanna, we love Deanna. Yeah, shout out to Tequila, Deanna's sister. She says, sister, I thought I knew a lot about your story, but queen, this is substance. Thank you for your transparency. That's her comment to you there. And then she says, you did great. 3 exclamation marks. And then and then she's given us all kind of beautiful bell celebrating emojis. And Val McCrae, Lady Val of the Wife Life Ministry, she says our tears are so very powerful because they help us free space in our soul. What do you say to that? Good.
Yes, that is so true. That's exactly how I felt. I was a totally different person when I started allowing my feelings. And I was like, wow, I started seeing the beautifulness that inside of me.
Wow.
Like, wow, that's why I say my daughter is the pure version of me.
Wow.
And so I would watch her cry and how I would react. Like I said, it was like I got to a place where I was just like, okay, just let her be. Like, let's just see how this plays out.
Yeah.
Let's see how life really should have been. She's the untainted version of me, right?
Wow.
And so I was just like, let me see how this plays out. And so it started my journey. And so now me crying is just like, yo, now, even now, I may not cry as long as some people feel, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But yo, it's me. If I cry for an hour, trust me, that's a lot for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I'm talking like at any moment now, I'm allowing the tears to come. You know, another thing is we didn't go into this, but I was married. I got divorced.
Okay.
I was married for 3 years. And y'all, when I say divorce was the best thing for me,
Wow.
and listen, I wouldn't want my enemy to go through divorce. Now,
Yeah.
I'm so against divorce. I would never, like I actually tell people, like I have conversations and counselings with people, do it for the right reasons, you know what I'm saying? And all
That's
this kind of
right.
stuff. I never want anybody to deal with divorce. I've been through so much abuse and all this kind of stuff. And I'm telling y'all, divorce was the worst thing I ever went through. But put a pin in it, it was the best thing for me.
Do you want to go into that a
Yeah,
little
I
bit?
definitely will.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote my book. I started writing my book in 2016. I got married in 2014. I started
For
writing
the
my
wrong
book.
reasons, but for the right reasons? What? Why did you?
You know, I should not have married him, and I
Okay.
do know that.
Okay.
I know that, and I can admit that now. I married him though. I was a runner. Okay, I never got close to people. I never wanted to be married. It was a point in my life where I was like, forget this. After I had my daughter, I'm not getting married. I ain't having no more kids. I'm good with the one I got, and I'm good with life, loving it. And I don't never want to be married. And I always said, but if I do, it's gonna be one time because my mom is on multiple marriages, my dad's on multiple marriages. Y'all, I'm just trying to do this one time till death do us part.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I met him, it did happen quickly, yes. And you know, there was chatter, but I never dealt with the opinions of other people. I really don't care what people say.
Yeah.
Because I had to deal with my family. Yo, y'all ain't better than them. Trust me, okay? Because they like
Yeah.
mafia. And so when I finally got married, I thought that it was my running side that was telling me not to get married. It was like, no, this man really loves you, Danielle. You just
Gotcha.
trying to run again.
Gotcha.
And I was like, no, I'm not going to run this time. I'm going to stay. And so, you know, I mean, I wasn't thirsty. Like I said, wasn't not thirsty to be married. I've had engagements, meaning, you know, men asked me before. So it was not that. I was running from them. And so, with him though, it was like, Danielle, you said you want to finally change and open up your heart, because I started going to therapy again. So change and open up your heart and be loving and all this stuff, right? All this is now, and we're just gonna be free and all that. And it was like, okay, so do something different. Stop running. Well, okay. So I didn't run, right? And I got married. And then I am thankful that he gave me enough peace to write my book. And he gave me enough stability to write my book.
Okay.
And that's what I'm thankful for out of that marriage. But in that marriage, I started researching about abuse. And this is when I learned about all the different types of abuse. Because
was he abusive?
Yes. So he
physically, emotionally, how?
He was emotionally, verbally, and financially abusive.
Financially, how? Give me an example of how.
I was the breadwinner.
Yeah.
I made triple what he made, and I don't care. You know, I never cared about. I'm not a materialistic person. You know, when other people always thought of the big houses and cars and all that kind of stuff. Oh, I can't wait until all I wanted was love.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever wanted. And so I submitted everything to him. I believe in submission. And I submitted everything to him. The money was ours, the house was ours, like everything was ours. And he would hold the money. And it was like, but I didn't realize it until I started going on this journey of
what really submission is under God's authority, under what God said, not how someone who is abusive will try to manipulate and twist. No, submission is not a bad word, but unfortunately,
it is not.
But you were still in a place of confusion, because you mentioned that we know confusion is of the enemy, right? So were you still in a place of confusion? Because it does say submit. So you were like, well, I guess I better just let him do what he wants to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I stand by it. He was my husband. Why would
Yeah.
I not? Why would we not have our finances together? Why would I not
Right.
hear what he says is great for us? And another thing that he did that was great was I'm a jumper. So I'm the type where, if I see something, I'm just gonna go and we'll fix it later kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he's a planner, and so that brought stability to me. And I was cool with it. Like, this is something that I need because I did progress in some different areas. And so I'll never take that away from him.
Okay.
And so I'll never take away my idea to submit in that manner either. Okay. So I didn't make a mistake when it comes to that. It's just that it was with the wrong person.
That's what Lady Val just said. Yeah, she said she had the right idea, but the wrong man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I started to learn, well, this is my purpose. This is what I need to do. I need to get this book out. And it was, well, I'm just not doing enough. And so my movement, Don't Be Quiet, was formed. And I wanted to help people. And that was all that it was. I just want to help people. And now in the beginning, I only talked about child abuse.
Now let's go back to the book. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back. So you start writing this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you get the courage to say, I'm going to have to just, did you tell your mom, family, I'm about to write this and y'all going to have to, at least you give them, because, or did you just say, you know what, I'm writing it. If they see it, they see it. How did you get the courage to say, I'm going to tell this and I'm not going to worry about if they're mad or
not? Crazy thing is, a couple years before I actually started writing it, like really started writing it, I had written a piece before, and I told my mom, which would be my stepmother. I had told her, and she was like, "Oh my God, no," and blah blah blah, And I remember a friend of mine, she had written her story, and I was managing her. I had no clue what I was doing, but we was trying to figure this out together. And I remember I shared it with her, and she was like, "Don't share this with anybody else." I said, "Well, I shared it with my mom, and I told her what happened and stuff." And she was like, "Don't share this with anybody else until you're ready to write."
Okay.
And she was like, "Protect this." And I said, "Okay." Yes. And so she was the first person to tell me I was doing a good thing. I wasn't crazy.
Okay.
And I felt that was everything to me. She was like a big sis to me. And so when I decided that, I was like, okay, I'm really going to write this book now. Like I said, my ex-husband brought that stability because I was always jumping.
Yeah.
Something come along, I'm jumping and I'm on it, and I'm writing that thing. But when I got married, I stopped a lot of business that I was doing. I was no longer an entrepreneur because I wanted to be married. And I had never been married, so I want to do this right, and I want to be a great wife because when I take on something, I'm going to be an amazing wife. I'm going to, he had children. I'm going to be an amazing mother to multiple children now because I just had the one. Oh my goodness, how do I now manage more than one? And I'm going to be an amazing wife and mother, and that was all I did. And so during that time, it was like, wow, I now have the peace to get this book out. I'm settled.
Good.
And so when I started writing it, like I said, I went through the journey, and he was all for it, and he's, "Go, babe, let's go." And, I got you and this and that. And it was perfect. And then I had been speaking for a month.
Okay.
Book came out January 2016.
Okay.
And 2017. February, I had taken on a speaking engagement. He came and he was like, "You still talking about this?" And I was like, yeah, you and I agreed. Like, this is the purpose. This is what we about to do. We're about to help these people be free of child abuse and all this stuff. You agree to this.
How we supposed to do? Yeah.
Right. He was like, "You still talking about this?" Like, "Oh, you meant for real, for real." And I was like,
yeah.
So I started researching more the different types of abuse because I was at an event and this lady said to me, I had my t-shirts, "Don't be quiet."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, I've never been abused as a child." She said, "But I've been in domestic violence. Can I wear it for that?" And I was like,
"Absolutely."
And I started doing research on it because I don't like to get up and not know what I'm talking about.
Amen.
I started doing research about it. And once again, my therapist friend, she at that time started putting all these posts on Facebook talking about the different signs of abuse. Like it was crazy. And I was like, how she know? And
Oh,
so
wow.
I started doing my research, and then it hit me like, I'm in an abusive marriage.
Wow.
I had printed out all this stuff, and I took it to him, and I'm like, let's work on it. This is my husband now. Like, we're gonna work on this.
Yeah.
And it's till death do us part. And I'd always told him, I was like, bruh, if you ever come to me and say that that you're leaving, I'm assuming you're dying because
Yeah.
it's till death do us part.
Yeah.
And he used that against me.
So
And
what did he say?
he just talked to me any kind of way that he wanted to,
Yeah.
and he was like, you ain't going nowhere. And I was like, I ain't going nowhere.
Because he knew.
Like, yeah, because he knew.
Till death do us part, that's what you wanted. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was like, yeah, I ain't going nowhere. And I became depressed, and I became just so sick. And it was like, well, dang, I wanted to abuse. I wanted to drink, but I was petrified of someone taking my children.
Yeah,
and that kept me from not doing drugs. My mom was an addict. My mom was an alcoholic, and that kept me from not going that place because I didn't want nobody to take my kids. That was always my fear.
Yeah.
And so I ate.
Okay.
And so food was my therapy. He worked nights sometimes, so I'm sitting in the bed eating, and it was my friend. And then he was like, you gaining weight. So we stopped going out. He didn't think I was pretty any longer. And, it was just this thing. And then now I'm ashamed because I done gained all this weight. Who was my friend? And now I had to break up with my friend. And it was just horrible. And so all that was going through my head, and me not being happy in my marriage. And when I showed him, I was like, yo, we're in an abusive marriage. He was like, I ain't never put my hands on you. And I said, but your words wrap around my throat and suffocate me nightly.
Wow. That right there, very powerful. But that goes into why this conversation is so important, Danielle. This is education. Because what did he say? And see, you have sometimes some men or women, because women abuse as well. Well, It's not abuse because I didn't put my hands on you.
Exactly.
But you just talked about neglect. Your mother didn't feed you, right? And then he says, but I never put my hands on you. It's not abuse because I just, oh, that's powerful right there. That's powerful right there. Let me read this comment. Tarashia says, that's it right there. That's, even some men, women abuse as well, people. Yes. But, it's not abuse because it wasn't, he said, I didn't put my hands on you. He really thought that was okay.
Yeah. I will show him, like I said, I started printing out things, so I could start studying. And, he knew I was studying these things. And so when I presented it to him, it was, okay, let's work on this. And so it was crazy because his son started going to therapy.
Oh, wow.
And we went to the therapy session to take him. And the therapist was like, y'all need therapy.
Oh, wow.
He said, y'all need therapy.
Y'all want to stay?
And I'm sitting there like, yes. But he didn't want to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't believe it was right. You don't go to therapy. That was for white people.
Well, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready.
Oh, never.
For the process. Yeah.
And he didn't even want his son going to therapy. The only reason why his son was going was because the school was like, listen, he needs to go to therapy because he had lost his mother.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother crazy story.
Yeah.
But he was in therapy. We went. The therapist said, y'all need therapy. And so when I asked him, like, oh, so I'm thinking, yay, good. The therapist said it, he'll do it. And we went to one session. And the therapist was agreeing with me.
Oh, wow.
And the therapist is on your side and blah, 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 blah. We never went again.
Wow. Yeah.
And so then he pulled his son out, and I was like, well, you know what? If you're not going to do it, then because I love you with everything. And although I knew by this time, I knew I should not have married him, but I was still trying to make it work. I was still trying to I thought that was the right thing to do, was still try to make the marriage work. Well, I'm here now. I already did it. So let's make it work. Let's work on everything. So I tried the counseling. I tried all that. I was reading magazines and I'm reading books on how to be a great wife and how to make
But
a
if
great relationship.
he didn't
And
want
so
to, if he didn't want to put in work, he
that's so,
refused.
but the
Yeah.
thing about it is I was working on me.
That's right. And I noticed you say that throughout the
Yeah.
conversation, despite what your mother did, despite what your father did, your stepmother did, despite what your husband did, I see just that you are acknowledging you can. And what I love about this conversation, Danielle, is that you have said, you know what you all did, yes, it was wrong, but I have to be responsible for how I'm dealing with this.
Yes.
I
That's
can.
so big.
I have to be responsible. I know y'all did me wrong. Y'all did me
Mhm.
wrong, and this contributed to some of my behavior. But I can no longer blame you all for how I'm dealing with it. I have to be accountable, and that
Yeah.
right there is powerful. How did you forgive your mother? How did you forgive your father? How did you forgive your stepmother? How did you forgive your husband? Therapy, counseling, prayer. What is it for you? Your process.
My process definitely was therapy. So I went back to therapy, so I did go to therapy a couple times throughout my life, and it was always okay, I'm feeling better kind of thing, and I already said, well, then I had a child and I stopped, and different things, different reasons of why I stopped. But I didn't stop reading. I didn't stop. Like that's still learning to me. They still gave me tools that I was still working on, and then I started meditating. Ooh, that meditation piece, meditating is to clear your mind. It's like clear your mind so you can really think.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, because on a regular basis, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. I work in corporate as well. Like I have all these hats. And so I'm thinking all the time, just thinking. If I ain't thinking about this, I'm thinking about that. If I'm not, and so when you can quiet your mind to think on one thing, that's what meditation does. Meditation makes you clear your mind, brain dump, and think on one thing. And that helped me tremendously. But let me go to my mom.
Yeah.
One of the major ways that I was able to forgive my mom is when I realized she was a woman.
What do you mean by that?
And so for me, when I then started writing my book, my cousin, my big cousin, oh my goodness, you guys, I'm having a conversation with her one night, and I'm thinking of something that happened that I want to put in a book, and I call her like, man, I was 4. I can't remember everything. So tell me what you remember. This is what I remember. And so we on the phone for like 2 hours.
Wow.
And then she says to me, do you know? She said something about my parents getting divorced, and she was like, do you know why they're not married? And I was like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
Now at this time, I'm what? 35. Okay. 35. And I said, well, Dad always said she was in the streets. Dad always said she left, and all this kind of stuff. She says, ask your mom. And I was like, nah, bruh. Like, yo, we in this. Tell me now,
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I'm going to tell you this little bit, but then, what I'm saying, like, your mom needs to tell you. So the next day I call my mom, and she tells me, and I cry the whole entire day. I spent 8 hours. I'm a recruiter by trade. I love HR and I love recruiting. And I literally was at a job fair and no one came. And this is crazy because it was one of my busiest sites. And I literally laid on this table and cried for 8 hours.
Wow.
And it was just everything. My mom had told me things I had never heard before. And I won't talk about it on this show because it's not something that I'm ready to release yet.
Yeah.
But when she told me this, why they divorced, she also opened up about some things about abuse that she had gone through.
Wow.
And I was like, you're a woman. Like, you're a person. Like, you're a human being. Like, sometimes we don't think about our parents being people. They're just our parents.
Right? And that helped you forgive in a way?
Forgive.
Wow.
And so when I was able to see that she's a woman just like I am. Has been hurt in relationships just like I have been.
Yeah.
She had a childhood just like I did. Oh my gosh, she just didn't become a mom. Like she had a childhood,
Yeah.
That helped me to realize, like, wow, you know what?
She's dealing with her own
Yeah,
burdens. She hasn't healed.
right.
She's
So
carrying. Oh wow.
there you go. She's carrying. And
Yeah.
so my journey helped her journey.
Oh wow.
And she still has, her journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But for me, and I can selfishly say this, I just needed it for me.
Amen.
And her journey is her journey. You know what I'm
That's
saying? So
right.
however she chooses to heal is on her. But for me, I needed to, for my safety, for my sanity, for my life, because I've attempted suicide.
Yeah.
And
How
at
many
this point,
times? How many times?
twice.
Mm.
And the second time, I know for sure I did it the right way,
Yeah.
and for me to still be here. And that was one of the reasons why I left my husband, because I started feeling like I had felt before. I was getting depressed, and I was like feeling like I didn't want to live anymore. And I was like, whoa, this is where it stops. Like it's gone
Amen.
too far now. And now, you know what? It's about me. And so for a long time, I had lived for my daughter. And that was enough for me. I needed to live just for her. And
Yeah.
at that time, now I'm living for me.
Yeah.
And so when I did that, when I started living for me, everything was just, I cut people off and I didn't care. And I became a little mean, but that was my safety for me at that time in
Yeah.
my life. I
Mm.
had to be mean because I was taking stuff from everybody,
Yeah.
And so I had to have that meanness about me, and I'm not proud of it. And I've apologized to some people, that I've needed to, during that time. But that was how I coped.
Yeah. And I
And
was
that
just going to say that was your
was,
way to cope. It was an
yeah,
unhealthy way, right? But
right.
at the time, if you are not in therapy, counseling, healing, we're trying to do the best we can.
Best we can. Listen, I was trying not to die.
Yeah.
I was trying not to die. I, at that point, like I said, wanted to live for myself. And like I said, I had started the movement, I had started my book, and I started speaking, and I wanted to live. And even through my divorce, woo, listen, divorce is a grieving process. And I
Oh
had
yeah. For
never
some it
heard that
is, yes.
before until I went through it. And my therapist friend, y'all, amen for the friend, y'all.
Amen. Do you
He
want to say
asked
her
me,
name?
Latasha Washington. Listen,
Okay.
matter of fact, congratulations to her. She just graduated with her doctorate, I think. Y'all, she done
Amen.
got so many
Good for
degrees.
her. Yes.
But she's true to trauma therapy. Okay.
Amen.
And so she told me because she believes in Don't Be Quiet. She believes in my movement. And I'm so thankful for that. And so she said to me, she was like, go through the healing process through this divorce,
Oh, that's
because
good.
now I'm living for me and everything. And I started going through the divorce, and it was like, yay, I kicked him out. Yay, I'm living now. Yay, I'm helping people. And yay, 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 yay. And she was like, look up grieving, because she knows I'm going to look it up. And I never heard that before. I was like, girl, what you talking about grieving? Child, he's not dead. And she was like,
Yeah.
the relationship is dead. And so I was like, oh, that's deep. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, yeah, let me look it up,
Yeah.
And when I did, it was like, whoa, grieve somebody that you can see in Kroger's at the grocery store in aisle 5, and I'm
Yeah.
grieving. Yo,
Mm.
that's something on a totally different level. And when I started to recognize it, and for me, like I said, when I can name it,
Yes.
then it's believable to me. It's real. It's all of that. And that's how I'm able to make it through. And so when I started all my research and all that, it was like, oh wow, well, how can I put this then into, helping others to live? Because so many go through domestic violence in marriage, and they don't want to leave because of the unknown, and
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, but let me show them that they can make it, because I'm no better than anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm no better than anybody else. And so when I can show you and give you the tips and the actual tools that I use to get out of it, then come along with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And let's
Everyone
not
knows
be
it here.
quiet together.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, don't be quiet is I am the voice for those that feel that they don't have a voice. And baby, I'm
Amen.
gonna be loud and proud until you feel like you want to speak. And you know what? If you don't want to speak, that's okay too.
Let's talk about that because, and this is what I find interesting, right? And I always tell people, you have to have the spirit of wisdom and discernment. You may have been a survivor of domestic violence, but that doesn't mean God has called you to write a book about it. He hadn't called you to put some.
Fact.
You have to be mindful. God will tell you what to share, how much to share, when to share, and who to share it with. Everybody's not meant to write a tell-all book. Just because Danielle wrote it doesn't mean you need to. Maybe it's something you need to share with a youth group. God has called you to do that. So everybody don't have to come out with everything. Because if so, that can damage you if
Even
you are not
more.
prepared for the backlash.
Listen, because it's no joke. It is.
But talk
not.
about that. Talk about that.
not.
How everybody is not meant to write a book or to do a radio interview. It's okay if you just share it in your Sunday school class. You have shared it. So talk about that so survivors don't feel like, well, maybe I should share this. Well, no, maybe not. It doesn't make you, and it doesn't mean you're not a survivor. Right. Maybe you were to share it with the person in line at the grocery store. You know what I mean? So yeah, but talk about that. Yeah.
That's so true. I'm a writing coach as well. And
yes,
I love to help people to
now,
get
specifically these kind of stories.
Now it can
you
be
work with survivors. Oh, okay.
I definitely work with survivors, but I work with anyone that wants to get their story out, the story out, all of that. Doesn't just have to be your story. It could be any written literary work. I am a writing coach.
Okay.
And so I love doing that because I don't like to see people get duped. Because listen, I see it all the time. And I'm an award-winning author. So I'm going to teach you the right way. Okay.
Yeah. Amen.
So I tell people, no, you do not. It's not for everybody because I'm telling you, the worst thing that you can do is get out there and things are being brought up and you're not ready to handle them. For me, when I went through my divorce, I said, okay, I'm going to number one, I'm going to deal with all the stages of this grieving process because I knew me being on the stage and me being out here was my purpose. Danielle D. Smith, my purpose. And so I did not want to be on the stage boo-hoo crying for 8 hours and I can't even speak. Like, come on now, that's not fair to those that I'm to heal. Yeah. And because I'm so transparent, I know that's how I help people. Okay. Because I know I've seen speakers that are not as transparent as I am, and that's okay.
What can happen is you can get in a situation, right, where you are with someone who's interviewing you and they're going to start delving into some things. And if you have not healed, it's going to trigger. Yes, like the conversation. That's why I'm very careful with how I interview people, because as we're talking about some of this, Danielle, you can't tell me it's not triggering some memories. Right. You can't tell. So, and if you get with an interviewer who doesn't know what they're doing, and they're asking you things that are insensitive, even though they don't know, right?
Right.
You better be prepared.
Wait a minute, let me pause on that. The reason why they don't know sometimes, this is the major thing. The reason why they don't know sometimes is not always lack of knowledge. It's because you wrote about it. And so they're digging into what you put out there.
They're interested. They want to know.
And so when you are writing your story, there are things that you don't want to put out there, and you shouldn't. Your whole entire life can't be out there, right? Like I said, there's two parts to my story that I have not put out there, and I won't put it into written format for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about it on public interviews. And that's my choice, and I can have that choice.
The two things you just brought up that you're not going to touch on.
Right.
Or is some other things. Oh, okay.
No, there's just two things. Those two things. And so when you write about it, it's going to be that one person that is interviewing that read that part in your book that they're going to bring out because you put it out there. You put it out there to be copywritten, and you put it out there for the world to see. So when you put it on social media and you put it in a book, that is out there for life.
And you know what? And look, as we're having the conversation, some things come up, and you're like, "But I'm not talking about that." Okay, but I'm a good interviewer, so you know I'm gonna ask Danielle.
Right.
But I'm respectful. I really want to know the answer, but you
Right.
could get an interviewer, so you have to be prepared. Or if somebody just sees your book and they want to write an article, didn't even come to you.
Right.
But you
That's
have to,
another
or
thing.
people
Yeah.
coming in your DM talking about, we know
Mhm.
you're lying, or did you know? You just have to be prepared when you
You
come
do.
out publicly,
And
and
not
that's
even
prayer.
and let's go on the other side of it is okay, so you put the story out there and you're fine with it, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so when the step further for me, now that I'm out here and I'm helping other people and that's my mission and all that kind of stuff, when I'm done,
yeah.
I'm exhausted
Oh
because
yes,
I know that I have given my all to whoever is in front of me
oh
because
yes.
I've always wanted that. And so
Yeah,
for me, some may feel like I do too much and I really don't care because to
yeah,
each his own.
yeah,
But I give my all. You're going to get all of my time. I don't care if they're shutting the lights. We're going in a parking lot. I mean, I'm
yeah.
going to give you that time because it could be my last time with you. It could be your last time. We don't know what the situation, we don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what the next 5 minutes holds. I'm going to spend my time with you.
Mm,
And so at the end of that, it's very exhausting. Let's talk
yeah.
about that. You know what I'm saying? Because I exert everything
Because it's a calling. When you put it
because it
out
is a
there,
calling.
you're going to attract people who have been who are there, who are broken,
Yes.
who are starting the healing process, and they need
Mhm.
you to walk them through. You're not
Yeah,
a therapist, you're a counselor. You're not a counselor, but
exactly.
your testimony will
Yes.
attract those people. So
Yes.
you have to be prepared. You're gonna have somebody who's gonna want to talk to you for a good hour.
Yep. And
Uh
I don't mind. I
yeah,
do not mind at all. And so for me, then I'm saying this on those that are speakers out here and those that are walking in this path or want to walk in this path. I'm not telling you this so that you don't do it. I'm saying be prepared
be
because
prepared.
I had a great mentor,
Amen.
that prepared me for that. And so I'm saying to you, if you don't have that mentor yet, I'm saying be prepared for it. And so me, like when I get done speaking, I do nothing the rest of that day.
Yeah.
I may watch a movie because I'm a movie buff. I love movies. That's
Yeah.
my enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
Listen, with my feet up, with my fuzzy socks on, and maybe possibly my laptop on my lap, but maybe not even that. And I'm going to watch a movie, and that's my way to recoup because I'm also an introvert. And so when I'm around people, I've exerted so much. My way to recoup my own energy is to be by myself.
Mm.
And
Let
that's
me read
because
some
I've
of these
learned that.
comments.
I've
No, go
learned
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to put that out there. Like I had to learn that because I would give so much and not replenish. And
Yeah.
then I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm sick. Sickness can come about and all of that. And I had to learn what's going to help me to recoup so that I can go back out there.
That's right.
And I had to take a
Lady Val
moment.
says it's a calling. We must be led by the Lord. Tequila talks about how, yes, meditation is powerful. This
Mhm.
is a final question I have for you before
Okay.
we get all your information. Doing my research, you one of the things you said was when you were a little girl, you would see all these happy families at the park, and you would be like, God, why can't I be in that happy family? God, why couldn't I be in the happy families like I see around me? What has God ever answered that question for you? Has he answered that question as to what it is that he allowed this? Because and we love the Lord, right? But there are things and that sometimes in this fallen world, Danielle, that of course that's a whole nother conversation. Because
Mhm.
how do you come back to Christ after all this has happened to you? How do you still believe in God? How do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But has
Mhm.
God answered that question for you? What is it that he allowed this to happen?
So we always hear the cliche of more won't put on you than you can bear, and
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's cool, and I get it. I have the understanding of what that means. Okay. um but for me, when I realized that other people are going through things and I have no clue what they're going through, okay, um You know, like I said, I wasn't crazy into thinking that the Huxtables were my family, but that was my survival.
Yes.
That was my survival. That's how I survived. I was a reader. Now, my mom did teach, my actual mother taught me to read when I was 2. So I was reading books and I would dive into the characters to get away from my life.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I chose to write my story as
Okay.
fiction. So I didn't write
Okay.
it as nonfiction. It's not an autobiography. It is written in fiction because I was able to make it through reading fiction books. Okay. Goldilocks and the
Yeah.
Three Bears was my survival. When I didn't get
Yeah.
those meals, I ate porridge. Okay. So
Oh, wow.
that's how my brain operated. And so when I became older and I started going through my journey of healing, it was noticing that people can go through things and I don't have a clue what they're going through. We're just seeing the outside.
Yes.
And so, you know, from the outside, people thought I had an amazing life living with my father.
Yeah.
Like for them to hear that my dad took me to get ice cream when I was pregnant. That was the
Mm.
first time my dad ever had a moment with me, him and I, a moment.
Wow.
Before that, people would be like, what? Deke? What? Deke? Deke? What? No, you know what I'm saying? And so when I realized that there are things going on in people's homes that you have no clue of what they're going through behind closed doors.
That's right.
And so when I realized that people had a misconception of what I was dealing with, so then I could have a misconception about what other people are dealing with. When I realized that, like, yo, I can't want to be like anybody. I
Is
can
that
only
what did
want,
he tell you though? Has he answered the question?
yes.
Have
And
you,
so that
or
question,
are you over it? Or are you kind of like, God, I've made peace with it? You know, has he answered? Because
well,
even
for
Job,
me,
right? God
for
never
me,
told Job why he allowed him to go through that.
exactly.
Yeah. So has God ever answered that question for you that you had as a little girl?
So for me, he did when he
Okay.
said, I shouldn't want to be like anybody else but
Oh,
myself.
wow.
Because
Okay.
when I saw that everybody else, I could want to be like her, but she could be getting abused at home too, just like I was.
Amen.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was my realization that everything that is golden doesn't look like, isn't truly golden all the time. And
Wow.
so it was, be happy with yourself. Make sure that you are golden. Make sure that you are good. Make sure that you are solid. Make sure that you can live with yourself. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that was my realization of it.
Oh,
And so
wow.
why did it happen? Well, now I can answer because I'm bold. I'm
Mm.
bold. And so I'm able to tell it because I'm not the only one. I'm not
Amen.
the only person that has dealt with abuse. I'm
You're
not the
right.
only person that can't. There are people when you look at the award shows and they like, I want to thank my mama because she always been there. I can't say that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm not the only one that feels that way.
That's right.
And
That,
so
yeah,
I
that's
honor
true.
my mom by not saying the negative, meaning I don't dog her. I'm just telling what happened. You have to be
Yeah.
careful what character you play in people's lives because you
Absolutely.
never know how it's going to be played out. I tell people all the time, how did we find out that Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce? We heard it through her art,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
she's called to do. And that's what her purpose is, to sing. And that's what she's called to do. And that's how we found out. So be careful what character you play in people's lives because you don't know how it's going to come out.
And let me say this publicly. It's on my heart to say this. God, I ask for forgiveness for getting emotional, speaking ill of Danielle's stepmother and father and mother. So I ask for forgiveness for that because when I hear these stories, it's heartbreaking. You know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
so emotional, but I have to be careful not to be led by emotion. So we pray healing for them. And I ask for forgiveness, God, for condemning them. They were in a broken place. So I have to say that publicly as I'm on the mic. The Dr. Don makes mistakes too. Yeah.
And I hear you. But at the same time, you are responding to what has actually happened, and your emotions are right. Your feelings are right, your emotions are right. You're okay to have them. Now, if you were to act on it and go stab their tires out, that's when you're wrong. But your emotions were fine.
But see,
And the way that
sometimes,
you felt was fine.
but let me tell you something. Let me tell you why I had to say that. Is God speaks to me as I continue to do
Hmm.
this, right?
Oh yeah,
I have to be accountable what I say on this microphone. And I don't know who's listening, who is in a place where they're not healed.
that
And
is
the Dr.
true.
Dawn went in on them, and I'm gonna go and tell. I
Yeah,
have to be accountable. So yeah, I was right in my but I have to
hmm,
be accountable. So I have to say that because I don't know who's listening, but sometimes I can get caught up with my people and the survivors. But I
yeah.
have to, the Dr. Dunn has to be mindful because I don't know who's listening and who's not in a healed place. Amen.
That's true.
So
That's
I
true.
have, and that's for anybody who gets on the mic. But where can people join the Don't Be Quiet movement? Where can people buy the book? Where can people support Danielle D. Smith?
So I my website is
Or
I
hold on,
am
where can they not? Because she's everywhere, honey.
no,
All the awards on the website, I almost couldn't even read the bio, all the honors.
and that's nobody. I'm so
Hey,
honored. I'm so honored and thankful. And that's why I say I'm no better than anybody else, because if I can do it, anybody can do it for sure. Okay. But my website is I am DanielleDSmith.com. So I am DanielleDSmith.com. I am telling you who I am, but I'm also reminding myself of who I am when I say that.
that is
And that's how
great.
you can find me on social media as well, as I am Danielle D. Smith on Facebook, Instagram. And so right now, I want to say that I am in the running for next month. I'm in a pageant that is a business pageant, which is I'm running for Ms. D. Smith Enterprises in the WBLAP pageant. That'll be next month in Florida. I'm super
Good.
duper excited about that. And so you can support me by always sharing my material.
Yes, and voting.
Yes.
I think I did vote. You know what? Make sure you tag us so we can vote if we need to.
Yes. Definitely, definitely. So all the voting is over now, and
Oh, okay.
at this point, I just need you to share and tag and support, in that manner. And if anybody wants to, hey, donations and sponsorship, you definitely are welcome to that. Um, but in that, it helps the movement. Okay, it
Okay.
does, because it is a business pageant and I'm getting my business out there, my movement out there. And so that is what it is doing. So please don't think that it's all about the beauty and everything, because
No, no,
there's
no.
always a purpose to everything that I do. And it always falls back to my purpose, which is don't be quiet. Danielle D. Smith being out here speaking to those that, are in need of help.
Yes,
And
yes.
also, I have a film festival that's coming up that supports children to get in the arts. And so
Oh,
we're
that's great.
teaching photography, being an author, and also filmmaking. And so
Okay.
I didn't say this. My book, I wrote it. It's called Yesterday's Tomorrow. I
Okay.
then turned it into a docudrama, and so that's my filmmaker side. And yes, I've won awards for that as well.
That's
And that
great.
is it's the visual to my book. So in the
Okay.
film, you get to see, oh my goodness, the places that I lived, and some of the neighborhoods where I walked, where I had to
Oh,
walk to my
yes.
babysitter's house. And so it is the visual to my book. And next we are working on a full feature film that will be just like the book. It'll be, in fiction format, but it will be the feature to my story. And so we're working on that at the end of the year. And so those are all the amazing things you can find on my website. And if you are an author and want to be in the film festival, you are more than welcome to submit into it. We are taking submissions until next month as well.
That's
It will be in
good.
Columbus, Ohio. And I say all of that not just saying, oh, look at me, look at the things I've done,
Yes, absolutely.
but it's also, oh, look at me, look at the things I've done despite the things that I've gone through, and that's why I say I'm no better than anybody else. And if I can do it, I am here to help people to do it as well. And so if you are looking to get your story out there, definitely, hit me up. And if you want to get it out there as a movie or a documentary, what are the ways that you should do it, because it's all about, I do it in multiple ways to get the story out there.
Yeah.
Not everyone reads, not everyone writes, reads or watches documentaries. Not everybody
That's right.
watches films, you know, and so it's like, how else can I get the movement out there? And it's by doing these things. Being a part of this pageant is me getting the movement out there, because
That's right.
now people are seeing, oh my goodness, who is Danielle D. Smith? Oh my gosh, she's a survivor. Oh my goodness, she has. So yes, there is always a purpose to everything that I'm doing. And it's always to get the movement out there, to get the movement moving. And so, you know, like I said, your donations and sponsorship, if you want to be a part of an amazing event, which is a film festival that will be in Columbus, Ohio in October. Like I said, and if you want to sponsor a child to be able to attend, all children under 18 will attend for free. If you want to sponsor a child in that, you are definitely welcome to do that. And you can find out information about the film festival at ColumbusFAPfestival.com. That's Columbus, F like film, A like author, P like photography, festival.com. Please support our children in that. And I will be having an after school program for that as well. We'll have one in Columbus, Ohio. We'll have one in Atlanta, Georgia, and another one in Milwaukee. So if you want to bring it to your city, we are franchising it. And if you want to bring it to your city, I definitely can help you and support that. And we can help each other to show our children how to get their written work out there. Those that are dealing with trauma, they already on social media. So let's show them how to do it the right way. Let me help your children to be able to get scholarships. Now, are you having problems, you know, or struggling to get scholarships for your children? Let me show you how they can start getting their written work out there and get you scholarships. Okay. And so that's what all of this is about. I needed a way to get out there and get my mind off of the trauma that I was going through. And so we're doing it the right way now.
Good.
And so help me to be able to, you know, help these children out here, y'all.
That's good. Favorite scripture verse that gives you strength before we let you go?
Ooh.
What's one of your?
You know, faith without works. You know,
good.
That's huge for me, because when I realized what it really meant, like, you can have the faith all day, right? But you got to work. You got to work. You got to do something.
Yes.
Something in order to go with that faith, and, you know, so that it can be activated. So definitely that one always is in my mind.
Good stuff. Brothers and sisters, I tell you, thank you for those who are listening online on Raise the Praise 100. Thank you for those who are listening through the app. Those on StreamYard who have been very active. Good evening, Sister Kathy Tatum. I tell you, Danielle D. Smith, the D stands for Don't Be Quiet. God bless you, girl. And if I see you using that, I'm not going to sneak in your DM. Hey, didn't we talk about that? You keep all of it for the Don't Be Quiet movement. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. And God bless Tequila. She says, great stuff, Queens. Thank you. Thesia says, amen. Just thank you all for being engaged. Very important conversation. When we come back, I'm going to play a little music for y'all. And then coming up in this final hour, before we go into prayer, I'll be giving you my The Dr. Don Daily Dose, which is all about don't put up a facade. Putting up a facade, you're going to miss out on the favor God has for you. Brothers and sisters, we'll be back. The Dr. Don Radio Show. No judgment, just realness, here on Raise the Praise 100, where we give you praise all day, every day. God, Danielle, I'm telling you, girl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm telling you, girl, that's what we have to do. Good stuff, girl.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I'm in a totally different place than when we first met, you know, with my healing and everything. So I'm honored to be here tonight. Honored, super duper honored. That's why I said it was full circle. Full circle, because, man, I was going through the divorce when I met you. Yeah. Like, it was fresh. Met you in May.
Yes.
April.
Now, hold on. We're still on Facebook Live, so don't say too much if you don't want to. Okay. I didn't know if you were about to spill the tea on those two things.
Oh no, I'm always safe. I recognize the live buttons now.
I know that's right, girl. Always check the live button.
Yes, but yeah. So I mean, you know, I don't mind sharing that. Like, yeah, we went when I met you he hadn't even been out the house for a month yet.
Oh, wow.
And so it was so fresh. And that was, Miss Chalet, her movie had just come out,